This interview happened a little while back. He appeared at the Super Bowl as well. And hey, man, it seems like Damar Hamlin is recovering. Well, he hasn't really stepped foot on the field or done anything terribly athletic, but at least he's showing his face and not being ushered underneath a tunnel wearing a full mask. Definitely not being creepy or anything like that. But Damar Hamlin is asked about why his heart stopped. Something I want to stay away from. Yeah, of course, if you have a ticking time bomb in your chest, you wouldn't want to know anything about that now, would you? Or spread awareness in hopes that nothing else bad would happen to anybody else out there. Clearly, it's probably something that slipped by the medical screening or something like that. Yeah, no, of course, couldn't possibly anything more nefarious than that. No, why would it be? Bills safety Damar Hamlin is in a recent interview said that he would not disclose the reason why he suffered cardiac arrest during a nationally broadcast game last month. Yeah, the way that interview was framed, I think it was back and forth between him and Michael Strahan, right? What you couldn't see was Roger Goodell just outside of frame holding an AK-47. That's the only thing that was missing. But outside of that, really good interview. First interview since the incident. Hamlin discussed his collapse during a January 2nd Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Hamlin spent more than a week in the hospital. You're 24, peak physical condition. That could run circles around me right now, but not in his prime. Michael Strahan, god damn, man, like he's just become a total media cuck, but he was such a beast. 20 and a half sacks. Yo, what he was such a monster on the field. That's why it's so sad. How did the doctor describe what happened to you? ABC News, Good Morning America host Michael Strahan, himself a former NFL player. You don't say. Has he got his gold jacket yet? I think he's been. Is he eligible to hit the Hall of Fame yet? Because he's the first. He's the first ballot Hall of Famer. Especially how wishy-washy the NFL Hall of Fame is. Hamlin stated he would not comment on why what the doctors told him. Bro, you're there exclusively to talk about taking a dive on the field because you were the fifth string member of the Bills secondary. Like, bro, no offense, and you might be a good player, but bro, you're irrelevant. The only reason you're on there is to talk about this, and it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Strahan then asked, I know from my experience at the NFL, they do more tests than anything. And in the course of you having your physical, did anybody ever come back and say you had a heart issue or anything that was abnormal? Honestly, no. Oh, okay, cool. I've always been healthy, young, fit. Well, yeah, you've always been young. Not as young as you were yesterday, but, energetic human being, let alone an athlete. So it is something we're still processing. And I'm still talking through my doctors to see what everything was, Hamlin said in response. Hamlin has continued to recover since he was released from a hospital last month. His interview with Strahan was first one since he suffered the medical emergency. Also in the interview, Hamlin, I don't know why I want to say Hanlon some more, but anyways, Hamlin said that he remembers preparing for the Monday Night Football game against the Bengals in Cincinnati and was feeling fine. I remember the things that they were focused on going into the game, Hamlin told Strahan, just trying to get the win. Yeah, because that game was actually fairly consequential and really ended up messing up a whole bunch of postseason games. At least one of them, the rematch between the Bills and the Bengals, that one ended up getting played at a neutral site. Yeah, regardless. But peek what he had to say. The NFL does so many tests. Nope, nothing. Everything's fine with my heart. And now all of a sudden, check this. NFL Players Association urged to screen for heart issues over vaccine side effects. What are you saying without saying? NFL Players Association is being urged to offer players cardiac screening in light of growing concern over the jab causing heart inflammation. Health Freedom Defense Fund urged the association in recent letters to implement screening because the vaccines cause myocarditis, a form of heart inflammation. Not in all instances, young males are most at risk. Yeah, like a 24-year-old that is perfectly healthy. Interesting. Most NFL players receive the jab under the pressure from teams and the league. Unless, of course, you're Aaron Rodgers, like, I'm vaccinated. Are you really? Well, I'm vaccinated. And I take herbs and supplement. Okay, fine. I didn't capitulate. You just go away. Safety signals illustrate that the near and long-term health outcomes of the jab remain uncertain. Leslie Manukian, president and founder of the fund, told DeMaurice Smith, executive director of the association, in the missive. A multitude of adverse reactions to these injections, including myocarditis, are wide-ranging and confirmed, such as And as such, prudence dictates that the NFLPA, Players Association, investigate to the extent to which the jabs may have resulted in injury, compromised health, or death of players. She pointed out that Damar Hamlin, a safety of the Buffalo Bills, suffered the cardiac arrest on the field during the Monday Night Football game in January. NFLPA should introduce a testing and screening program to determine whether players have been adversely affected by the injections and to develop a set of functional medical protocols and treatments in order to address and heal any deleterious effects of the jab. Of course, NFLPA declined to comment to the Epoch Times because they hear this conversation happening. They just stick their fingers in their ears and go la 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 la. Don't need to address any of that. They're good people. Former NFL player Kenny Rutgers, who started the Voices for Medical Freedom podcast, previously warned an associate who works for the NFLPA of post-vaccination cardiac events and offered to connect to the groups with doctors and the knowledge of the issue. The associate thanked Rutgers, but did not accept the offer, Rutgers told the Times. Challenge is, it's almost like a fighter pilot that I don't want to be tested because if it comes up positive, I don't want to get grounded. Yeah, man, pretty much. But these are just people. It's like you're going to be doing all of these screenings to begin with. What's another one? Because, do you want to see more kids just drop on the field next season? It's like this stuff is going to be very, very common going into the future. At least more so than it has been previously. Like, an incident like that had never happened in the previous history of the game. There's been some gruesome hits. There's been some awful injuries that occurred on the field. There's been paralysis, there's been leg breaks, there's been paralyzations. I had to say paralysis twice because my brain's not at full functioning capacity, I guess. I don't know. But anybody dropping dead of a heart attack on the field, even with those big porkers on the O and D lines, like, bro, you guys have a problem. I'm not a medical professional or anything like that. And talking about this topic got me, struck off my second channel. Well, I probably got a little bit more spicy over there, but that video, it's up on Rumble. This is a universal problem because the NFL is not unique in forcing everybody to line up and get the jab in order to continue their job. And given the finite amount of time that the athletes have in order to maximize on their value, make as much money as they can, and then get out of there, they were put between a rock and a hard place. Not everybody can be 3-time MVP and keep it 10 toes down. Most of them are just like, okay, fine, I don't want to get cut and be replaced by hundreds of other kids that go through the NCAA system that they can just pick up on a waiver, like Damar Hamlin. Like, he was drafted in the 6th or 7th round. Like, he's incredibly replaceable. But even though Hamlin I don't think he's ever confirmed if he's been jabbed up or not, so this could be just a bajillion% speculative. But success leaves clues, and so does failure. He had this medical episode on the field, all right? He also plays in Buffalo, which is New York, which had some of the most tyrannical rules regarding this jab in the entirety of the union. In order to do anything, you had to show your papers in the state of New York. Somebody who also has to fly around the country all the time, be on constant flights, constant interstate travel. But is the NFL going to owe up to this if there's anything even close to being on this level happen next year or over the offseason? Hopefully not, man. Mnuchin informed the NFLPA that the US FDA placed a warning regarding myocarditis and related conditions, pericarditis, on the labels of the Pfizer and Moderna jab. She also pointed to research papers on post-vaccination myocarditis. Among them, a study by Florida authorities that found a jump in cardiac-related deaths among the vaccinated, a study that found an increased risk of myocarditis and myopericarditis after a second dose of the Pfizer jab, and the first and second doses of the Moderna jab, with the highest risk in young males. A reanalysis of the original clinical trials that found a higher number of serious adverse events of special interest among the vaccinated. And experts in Germany reporting after analyzing autopsies that some of the deceased likely died from vaccine-induced myocarditis. Those are the facts. Those are the stats from the experts that are out there. Florida authorities, German authorities, all the authorities your heart's desire. But does the NFLPA want to take a look at that? Well, as the analogy was provided earlier, it's like, don't ask, don't tell. We have a growing body of scientific evidence showing that there is a risk to young males in particular, and many of them have some critical cardiac problems. NFL did the right thing when it comes to concussions, supporting stronger protections for players, she said. Well, I guess it just kind of made the game a little bit more bitch-made, but whatever. I think that we should be doing the same thing with respect to the jabs and the potential for subclinical cardiac issues. You would think so. I'm just wondering how many more screens and disqualifications are going to be coming up during training camp. Dr. Anish Koka, a cardiologist based in Philadelphia, reviewed the letter. I don't think it's unreasonable for the NFLPA to at least consider the fact that young, healthy men now are at such a low risk to the coof. Do you want to take the risk of myocarditis related to the jab? Koka told the Times. Still, Koka advised against screening all players. All right. If you randomly screen a bunch of NFL players with an MRI, you're going to see some bright spots show up, and you're not going to have any real hard idea whether or not this is something real. And it could affect the career in terms of, does the team want to sign this player because he has some questionable abnormality on a cardiac MRI? And another tangentially related sports issue, just a couple of months ago, what was that, just before or just after the new year? Carlos Correa, one of the quote-unquote premier shortstops in Major League Baseball. Your mileage may vary. I think that he's wholeheartedly overrated, but that's just my opinion on this. He hit free agency. He got signed up by the San Francisco Dodgers to begin with. 8 years, $300 and some odd million. Then went through a medical screening, and then that ended up falling through. And then the New York Mets ended up snatching him up for, was that $8 million or was that $6 million? Something like that. An equivalent amount of money. And then he goes through a physical. Ooh, and then there's a problem right there. And then finally he lands back with the same team that he opted to exercise free agency on, the Minnesota Twins, at the end of the day, on a reduced take, either 6 or 4 years. Regardless, it doesn't matter. When you're spending money, millions of dollars, on an investment such as a player, screening them and making sure that they aren't ticking time bombs that are going to end up ultimately holding you accountable, that'll be the step that many people are going to be willing to take. But yeah, it looks like this Koka looks to be an agent of the establishment. The coof can also lead to myocarditis and heart issues, according to some research. Other papers indicate the coof does not lead to an increase in myocarditis and pericarditis. Autopsy data has not supported the idea that the coof heightens the risk, according to Koka. Oh, so the good doctor right here is looking at the other evidence. What, the establishment evidence? Yeah, we don't want the other stuff, though. We wouldn't want to get to the bottom of this Damar Hamlin situation, because we're not going to get it from him, because he'd like to keep his job. Screening can lead to an increase in myocarditis detection. MRI screening led to a 7.4 times increase in detection among college athletes over symptom-based screening, according to one study. Mnuchin said it is important to discover whether players have myocarditis, but said the screening should be voluntary, not mandatory. There you go, man. That sounds great. I'm sure in some form or fashion, screening for myocarditis, pericarditis, any sort of abnormal heart condition, it's going to be a part of the physical going forward. And like I said just previously in this video, I'm waiting for more disqualification talk to be popping up very shortly ahead of the 2023 season. This is going to be an issue, man. Like, you guys put this stuff in for a couple of years, and this is going to be a subject that's going to be playing out for probably a generation before we get to the bottom of it. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.